For those of you who made it this far, we will now move to a bit more technical stuff. Now let's talk about capturing races. Imagine you have this position in your game. You are playing black and you have just 3 liberties, and your opponent has 4. Can your group survive? If black just starts taking white's liberties, then obviously white kills black first. But there is one trick which you could use. If you play a throw-in, this is the best way to provoke a ko in a capturing race. Let's say white captures your stone, and then you play Atari. White cannot connect because then white would have less liberties than you. So white's best move is to play Atari. But then you capture the ko, and white doesn't have a clear way to kill your group. By the way, what type of a ko is it? This is a one-move approach ko. If white wins it, then of course black is dead. And if black wins the ko, then black cannot connect. Black needs to play Atari, and then a new ko starts. Now let's move to the starting position, or even one move earlier. If you are white in this situation, what is the correct move to kill black's group? You might remember this proverb. The key point of your opponent is your key move. As black's throw-in was the key move in this situation, white's correct move is this descend. It might look unexpected because it doesn't take black's liberty, but if black plays here, then, well, obviously, white will win the capturing race by 1 liberty. And if black plays from the outside, now white starts taking black liberties. And again, white will be fast enough to kill black. What you should remember from this example is that a great way to provoke a ko in a capturing race is to play a throw-in on the first line. Then even if you initially had less liberties than your opponent, you can achieve a ko. On the other hand, if you have more liberties than your opponent and you want to not make it possible for the opponent to start a ko, you should descend. The descent is the cleanest move you could think of. So now you have a good clue about how to create a ko out of nowhere in a capturing race, and now let's learn how to play such a ko correctly. Let's say that we have this position. It's white to play, and white could kill black's group in ko. Where should be white's move? White could capture the ko right now, then black would take white's liberty, white plays from the outside, and black captures the ko. Yeah, this is a ko, but white needs to look for a ko threat first. On the other hand, think what happens if white starts from taking the outside liberty. Black plays Atari, and again we have a ko, but this time white takes it first, and black is the first one to look for a ko threat. Remember this one simple principle. If there is a ko in a capturing race, then wait before capturing it. First take all the outside liberties of the opponent, and capturing a ko should be your last move. So here is a very similar example. It's white to play, and where should be white's move? Yeah, white has 2 ways to achieve a ko. White could either capture the ko right now, or start by taking black's liberty. And these 2 options are similar, but if white starts from capturing, then unfortunately white will be the first one to look for a ko threat. On the other hand, if white started from this move, black takes white's liberty, then white takes the ko first, and black needs to look for the first ko threat. Alright, that was simple enough, and now let's move to something a bit more confusing. In some situations, it is alright to capture the ko before taking the opponent's liberties. Again, we have a capturing race, but now white has more liberties. And yet, white cannot kill black unconditionally. There is still this annoying ko in the corner. How would you call this ko? What type of a ko is it? This time it is an approach ko. Black would need to play all these moves, and only then it would turn into a direct ko. And let's say it is white's turn in this situation. White can certainly take black's liberty, and it will be an approach ko. But white has also another option. If white captures the ko now, then white doesn't need to be afraid that black takes a liberty and black will take the ko as the first one, because white could just connect and white simply wins the capturing race. If a capturing race is not decided by a single liberty, meaning you have many more liberties, but there is just that one annoying ko, a many move approach ko, then you are allowed to capture this ko every time while your opponent is playing their approach moves. Good! Now you know the basics of playing a ko in a capturing race. And if you want to really be a master of ko, you need to remember this one exception. Let's take a look at this capturing race. It's black's turn, and where is black's best move? Alright, I told you before to take the ko as the last thing in a capturing race. But now, taking the ko is center for black. White will need to connect, and then black takes white's outside liberty, white starts a ko, and black can look for a ko threat, or black could even play any move on the outside, as this is a two-step ko. White doesn't have one move with which white could kill black, so white will need to take black's outside liberty, and then still a ko is played. And now let's look what happens in an alternative variation. If in this position black started from taking the outside liberty, white takes black's liberty, black takes the ko, then this is a direct ko. There is a difference that black didn't have a chance to play a move on the outside, and white didn't play this connection in the meantime. Just remember this one exception. If you capturing a ko is a center, it is an atari that your opponent needs to respond to, then it is good to play it before taking the liberties. I know that this last exception might have sounded a bit confusing. In the end, it's a difference between an approach ko and a direct ko. But I will show you one example in which it decided a game. Unfortunately, not in my favor. It's my online game and I was playing white. The board is full of groups, but what you should focus on is this group of black, which has only one eye, and this group of white, which has only two liberties. And as you can see, there is a ko between these two groups. If you look closer, then there is also that other ko, and it confused me during the game, but in fact it doesn't matter for the right choice. So how do you think? Where should white play right now? Unfortunately, back then I didn't watch my own lesson, and I didn't know that principle that when taking a ko is center, then you should just do it. In the game, I played this move. Then black played atari. I took a ko thinking that it's a good situation for me, but then black found a threat. If I ignore this threat, then my 8 stones die, and black not only lives with a part of his group, but also kills that other group of mine. On the other hand, if I answer to the threat, then black takes back the ko, and now there is literally no option for white to find a big enough threat. But now let's look what would have happened if I followed the principle. White's correct choice would be to capture this ko because it is an atari on black stones. If now black connects, I capture that ko. Black cannot find any ko threat because this is already an atari on black's group, so if black plays here, I can just capture the group. Black would need to recapture that ko. I play another move in this area. Black plays atari, starting the ko. I capture, but now black doesn't have a ko threat because I had time to play an additional move on the left side. As a result, black's big group would die and I would win the game. We learn how to play a ko like a master during a capturing race. First of all, beware of the first line throw-in, and if your opponent gives you a chance, then play this throw-in and start a ko. There is also one rule about how to play a ko. Just take the outside liberties and capture the ko as the very last move. This way, your opponent will be the one who needs to find the first ko threat. And then there are these two exceptions. If it is a many moves approach ko, then you could capture a ko before taking the opponent's liberties. And then the second exception. If you taking a ko is an atari, it's a center move, then just play it. played before taking the opponent's outside liberties.
By the way, you can also watch these lessons on our platform, gomagic.org. Except there, you'll watch them with interactive quizzes right within the lessons and practical exercises right after them. And if you enjoy watching these Go videos and you don't want to miss others like this one, go smash that like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and this is Go Magic.